There are some incredible championships in both WWE and AEW, but the question is, which one is the greatest? That's what we're here to figure out, as I found this tier list online that has every active championship in both WWE and AEW, and we're going to rank them from S tier down to F tier. Now, this isn't just based on the presentation on the show, but in fact how the championship looks and how the fan reception is as well with the championship. So, for example, if we had an F-tier championship, it would probably be something along the lines of the 24/7 championship. Although it's not active in WWE anymore, the fans did not love it. It was a forgettable championship, and it also was a horrible design. That belongs in F tier. But also, for example, if we had the S tier right here, it could very easily be the Winged Eagle belt of WWE, as that is well received amongst all fans. Everybody loves the design, and it was presented very, very strongly on the shows. Anywhere else in between is just wherever we feel like it. It's going to be those championships that we either love the design, we're kind of meh on the design, or we hate the design, but they're presented pretty well on the show. Sound like a plan? I hope so. Before we get into this thing though, make sure you leave a like on this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn those notifications on, and let's have some fun with this. And I can't wait to see how angry you get at me in the comments for putting your favorite championship in the F tier. And 24/7 championship lovers are gonna come for my head. All right, let's do this thing. So we're going to start with the new Raw Tag Team Championships here. And the reason I want to start with this one is because I was actually very lucky to hold the championship in my own hands as I went to Money in the Bank 2024. JD McDonough passed over the championship when he was doing the meet and greets in our suite, and it was really, really cool. The belt is incredibly heavy. It looks gorgeous up close, and I would say that fans are interested in the tag team division as a whole. Now, where this is going to struggle to move up the list is because of the presentation of the Raw Tag Team Championships since they were won at WrestleMania. Since the titles were split, it really does feel like the tag team division has been kind of affected by it. You know, the feuds aren't as big as they used to be. Granted, the Judgment Day is holding on to these titles, but how long was it between defenses for these? They haven't been defended that often, and I do think the title looks good, but it's not nearly the best design in WWE by a long shot. I think this is a very, very fair C-tier ranking right here for the championship. While it does look good, it's not great. There is far better looking championships, and I could see us having easy B tiers and easy A tiers ahead of this one. So also, for how often they're defended, and they're just really not presented in a giant way anymore, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm very confident putting this in the C tier. Now let's go over to AEW, the AEW Trios Championship, something that has been very unique to AEW, certainly when it comes to North American wrestling, and their focus on the Trios division has been a lot of fun to watch. A lot of the concerns around AEW's Trios division is that it takes away from the tag team division and that they don't know how to book both divisions at the same time. However, granted, the championship is gorgeous, and there has been a lot of great matchups centered around the Trios division. I think we can very confidently say that the Trios titles are a B-tier championship. Now, the reason I say that is because they are presented well on the show, and they are a good-looking championship, but at the same time, they do kind of feel like they fall into the background. When the people hold on to the Trios championships, you don't immediately identify them as the Trios champions. You know what I mean? It's like you have to do some thinking, and then you're like, oh yeah, they are the Trios champions, because sometimes they do other things. They're not necessarily centered around the Trios division, and the belts are good. You know, they're a good looking belt. I don't think anybody is going to sit here and say they look great. I think they're a very, very average looking championship, but at the same time, the meaning that it brings to the show is pretty important. So I'm going to go B tier here for the Trios Championships in AEW. Let's bring out a championship that was just recently retired, the FTW Championship, the For the World Championship, as Chris Jericho loves to coin it. Look, I've never been a big fan of this thing. I don't really understand its significance to the division. I get it. It's just a belt that Taz brought in, and there's been some storylines centered around it. But if you told me that those storylines didn't involve this championship, they would have felt exactly the same to me. And also just the words FTW on it, it's not the best looking championship. And if there was an F tier championship on this list, I feel like we got to give it to the FTW Championship. So it's well deserved with its retirement. I know it's got a lot of history and I know the fans do enjoy it. So some of you might be saying, "Gone, that is an easy C tier," but it's my list, damn it. And I'm going to put it in the F tier. Let's go back to WWE with the United States Championship. The rebrand of this title is gorgeous. I really, really like the look of it. And also, it's the United States title, for goodness sake. The amount of history that it has, the amount of big time matchups that have gone around this title, and especially the amount of people that have held on to this title before going on to do bigger and better things. I think everybody will agree with me on this one, that this is an A tier championship. Just everything about the United States title just screams that you are a champion who is going to go on to do bigger and better things. I know that a lot of people associate the Intercontinental Championship as the stepping stone title, and it is starting to get back to that. But for a long time, it was the U.S. title. I think of Bobby Lashley holding on to the United States Championship before moving up to the world title picture and then dominating as WWE champion. It's a great looking title. It elevates anybody who puts it around their shoulder. And you know what? LA Knight is going to do great things with it moving into the future. They wouldn't put the title on LA if they weren't trusting that man to go on to do bigger and better things as well. So I am so confident with this one. The United States title is absolutely an A tier. We're going to go to a defunct championship here, one that has kind of been morphed into the AEW Continental Championship. It's the All-Atlantic title. And when this thing was brought in, it was a cool idea to allow people outside of the company, or I guess promotions outside of the company, to get this championship. Like when Pac was going around defending this title across the globe, very, very cool idea that it took place in the All-Atlantic division, right? It was a cool idea. I think the Continental Championship is a much better championship as a whole, but the idea of this title was cool, and the design wasn't bad with the flags. It's very much on par with the tag team titles from Monday Night Raw, so that's an easy one. I know it's a defunct championship, but we have a couple on here right here, and we're going to put that in the C tier. But speaking of the Continental Championship, this is one of my favorites in AEW, and I know not a lot of people are going to agree with me on this, but I'm going to go A tier with this. The title just looks gorgeous, and I love the idea of it being like this Triple Crown champion, and it's just like, there's so much lore and history behind this championship, even though it is a brand new title. The fact that they build it up as this big deal on the show and they constantly have top stars going after this title, I love it. And to me, just the crown in the center of it looks great. The Continental name is excellent. It feels like just a step down from their world title. It truly is an incredible championship, so I'm going to go A tier with this one. How about the new NXT Women's North American Championship? There's not a lot of lore here with this title, but it is something that has been so sorely needed in WWE for a long time, and that is a Women's Midcard Championship. NXT has benefited so much from having this title already. Kalani Jordan has done an incredible job building up the lore already and putting on great matchups. Now, the thing is the design is exactly the same as the Men's North American Championship, so it's not like there's really anything to critique about this thing. It's just a white strap. I gotta go C tier with this, though. Simply put, it doesn't have the lore and the history that a lot of these other championships have in order to move it up the rankings. So if we're talking about importance, it's not one of the most important championships yet, but it will be. Someday this will easily be a B tier, maybe even an A tier. This championship is going to produce stars after stars that we're going to see for the next 2, 3, 4 decades on the main roster of WWE. But for now, C tier. And we might as well transition over to the NXT Men's North American Championship. This thing is a thing of beauty as well. And I'm going to go just one step above where the NXT Women's North American Championship is. Simply put, the lore is a little bit longer with this. We have a lot of stars that have held on to this championship through the years. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree when I say that it is WWE's NXT Stepping Stone Championship. It's the one that you put onto somebody to see if they're able to hold on to it for a while, put together some great matchups before moving them up either to the main roster or to the NXT Championship picture. Obafemi is a prime example of this. He's a big dude that WWE sees a ton of potential in, and they're like, hey, hold on to this title for a while. Let's see what you can do. And he's en route to breaking and becoming the longest reigning NXT North American champion of all time. So honestly, great history behind this championship. A very nice looking championship as well that fits the NXT mold. It's different from everything you see within WWE. So that's why I'm going to go with a B tier. Let's break out the AEW World Championship. Now, I immediately know everybody in the comments is going to be like, Con, this thing is not an S tier. All right, it's not viewed on the same level as blah, 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 blah. Hold your horses, okay? The AEW World Championship is an iconic championship that has been through a lot in its short time. There has been so many great stars to hold on to this title, and a lot of people like to associate what AEW is doing right now to their history. But the reality of it is the history of AEW was one of the most exciting time periods to be a wrestling fan, certainly within the first 3 years of the company. There was great moment after great moment and great champion after great champion that held onto this title. Whether your name is Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, or anybody else that has held onto that title, you knew you were in for some really good stuff anytime that champion was in action. And you got to admit as well, they couldn't have made a more perfect belt for their world title. This thing is gorgeous. Look at the gold work that they have along with the logo in the center. Everything just works for this championship. There is no doubt in my mind that the fans love this title, that the wrestlers love this title. It's prestigious, it has history, and in a decade's time, because yes, I do believe AEW will be around for a decade plus more, in a decade's time, we're going to be looking back at this and saying, wow, what history this championship has. What an amazing run this title had at the top. And it's not slowing down anytime soon. You also can't forget CM Punk having the Real World's Championship. And like all the feuds that were built around this title, there was some excitement around the AEW Championship for so long. And I think it's going to come back pretty soon, if not already. So that is an S tier championship through and through. Let's go with the NXT Championship, this rainbow colored background from NXT 2.0 title. Now, here's the thing, all right? I grew up with the regular NXT Championship, you know, that big X that they had. And then when they morphed it into the next championship, I kind of got accustomed to that. This right here, this title reminds me of NXT 2.0 so freaking much. And I know that there's more history with the title. And I know that a lot of people have held on to this thing and made some great stories from it. But like, if I'm looking at this championship here, it feels like it's right alongside of the US title and the Continental Championship. I don't see the NXT title, this NXT championship, feeling as important as it used to be. Now, granted, that's not a shot on developmental or anything like that, but it kind of feels like this is the title that is like, we're testing things out for the future still, but we don't actually know if this person's going to become a star. It used to be when you held onto the NXT Championship, you were destined for huge things. Like I think back to when Bobby Roode held onto the title. I think back to Aleister Black. I think back to Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole. You can even go as far as Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. There's been so many great champions to hold onto this title. Shinsuke Nakamura, Samoa Joe. And as soon as they held onto that championship, you're like, man, this person, once they lose, are going to be called up to the main roster and they're going to be pushed to new heights never seen before. That didn't always happen. Thanks, Vince. But it is how the title felt back in the day. Now it kind of feels like it's a championship that we're putting people in that spot to see if they sink or swim. It's no longer like this is the guy. This is the person that's going to run with this company for a while. It's like, hey, we have this opportunity, so we'll see if we can make Trick Williams a star. Hey, we have this opportunity, so we'll see if we can make Carmelo Hayes a star. Hey, we've got this opportunity, so we're going to see if, Braun Breaker really was the last guy to hold onto the title that it felt like they've got destined main event plans for. But like, don't get me wrong, Ethan Page, I love the guy, but like it does feel like a bit of a test. There's a lot of things that go on with this NXT championship right now that doesn't necessarily say these are the guys of the future. It's like, let's see what happens. So for me, It's a bit of a step down from the S tier. I hate the rainbow color in the background, so I'm going to go A tier. And that brings us to the NXT Women's Championship. Now, for the same reason, this colored background I don't love. I do remember fond memories of the NXT Women's Championship being in the hands of Bayley, being in the hands of Asuka, Ember Moon, right? There's some great champions through the years to hold on to this thing. A Raquel Rodriguez, a Rhea Ripley, a Shayna Baszler. Now, though, I feel like it's opposite of what the men's division is. This feels like the title that WWE's like, yeah, we have a star in the making. We are going to put stars with this championship and make them into bigger stars. And nobody has built this championship up better than Roxanne Perez. Roxanne has been absolutely incredible since holding on to the title, and she's just elevating this to new heights. Like when you have Julia come in and challenge her right out of the gate for this title, it feels like, oh damn, that's a big deal. And then you have Stephanie Vacour challenging this champion, whoever it may be, after their championship match on the debut of the CW network. It feels massive. There is women lining up trying to take this title from Roxanne, and Roxanne continues to just bat them down. It feels literally like how they used to book the NXT Men's Championship. And by the way, I didn't even mention Finn Balor back with the NXT Men's Championship. Oh my God, he was awesome as champion. But this one right here, I feel like it is an S tier. There's very few championships in WWE that have been booked perfectly, and this is one of those titles. NXT 2.0 booked this title well. They did it with Mandy Rose, and they actually elevated Mandy Rose to a whole new level. And if it weren't for the way that she left the company, she probably would be treated as a massive star now on the main roster. They've done great work with this through the years. NXT Women's Championship is an S tier. Let's go over to AEW for the TNT Championship. I'm a fan of this one. Now, when it was introduced, I didn't love the idea of having the TNT logo on it. I didn't love the idea of this being the network television championship. If they produced it in that way, where this title was always going to be defended on TV and it wasn't necessarily like just another championship in AEW, I feel like it would have been better received. And it kind of was how it started out, but now it's just another championship in AEW. I'm not crapping on the title by any means, but anything that has the logo of a TV station on it is probably going to be a C tier to me. It's definitely not an F tier. It's not a bad championship by any means. And there is a lot of history around this title. It felt like this was their mid-card title for a long time until the Continental Championship kind of took over. And you could also say like the International Championship took over as well. Like there is some things here about the TNT title that, I don't love, and I'm more than okay putting it down here at the C tier. All right, next up, we have the NXT Tag Team titles. Now, I'm sure everybody has fond memories of these championships, whether it be the Ascension holding onto these titles, whether it be the Lucha Dragons, whether it be American Alpha, whether it be the Street Profits, you name it. There's been so many great tag teams to hold on to this title through the years. The Undisputed Era have held on to the championships. Then you fast forward to where we're at right now. We got Fraxium holding on to the titles, who took the titles from the Wolf Dogs, and there's just been champion after champion that we know, love, and respect. These titles have a very, very fond spot in my heart, but I don't love the design. I really don't love the design of the tag team titles. I don't think they're that great. I think it is okay, and that's why I'm going to go right in the middle here. I love what these championships bring to the table. I love the lore. I love the attention that these titles have had through the years, but like the design, it's never been something that I love, and I just have to go middle of the pack. Let's go back to AEW with the TBS Championship, and look, it's a C tier. It's a C tier. It's right on par with all these other championships that we have in here. It does kind of feel, again, like a TV title, which isn't a bad thing, but anytime that you have the logo of a television station on there, it just doesn't resonate that well with me. A lot of great history with this title. Jade Cargill obviously elevated the damn thing, but hey, at the end of the day, it is AEW's lower card for the Women's Championship. It's where they go when they don't really know what to do with anybody right now. So I'm going to put that at the C tier. But how about the AEW Women's Championship? I really do believe this is one of the better looking designs in pro wrestling. It's easy to sit here and say it's maybe a step down from the S tier and all that. But you know what? I'm going to put it at S tier. And there's a reason why. Every time that this women's championship is actually presented in a feud, the women deliver for this match. I know not everybody always loves the women's division in AEW. And frankly, they do need to be booked stronger and they need to be booked more consistent. However, the title itself, anytime that there has been a feud around the women's championship, it generally speaking does get airtime. It generally speaking does get match quality time. And it's not just thrown to the wolves. You're not thrown just out there after the biggest, best match that they have on the card. They usually try to protect anybody around this championship. Toni Storm did a great job elevating this title to whole new heights, and we got to give her all the credit in the world, but we also got to give credit to the feuds that have happened around this title and the storylines that have been centered around it. AEW's women's division is getting better, and a big part of that reason is because the attention on the women's world title, plus the fact that it looks gorgeous. It really is a great looking championship, and I just have to give this an S tier. And for literally the exact same reason that I just said for AEW, the Women's World Championship deserves to be an S tier. Now, after all the attention that Rhea Ripley had with this championship, it's easy to just kind of move past it and say, well, it's just because of Rhea Ripley. But no, that's not necessarily the case. Liv Morgan has done a great job in making her feel like a big-time character with the Women's World Championship around her. Now, a lot of people might also be saying, look, because she's kind of an accessory to Dom and it's not always focused on the women's world title, that you could drop this down. But that's recency bias. When Rhea Ripley was holding on to this title, she made it feel like a massive, massive deal. And if this is going to be in the S tier, it means that it has to be considered for like a WrestleMania main event or main eventing a top tier show. And if you told me today that this title was main eventing Bad Blood, if it was main eventing War Games, if it was main eventing anything coming up, I would believe you. There's enough history and there's enough heat behind this title with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Plus, let's face it, it's the World Heavyweight title design. One of the best, if not the best designs in pro wrestling history, the big gold belt with just the WWE logo slapped in the middle. I love the look of this title. It's going to be incredibly difficult for me to not put it in S tier, so why am I even going to bother? S tier for the women's world title. Let's get our final AEW championships out of the way. This is the AEW World Tag Team titles, and to me, this is AEW's second most important division. It was what their focus was when they started AEW, to build these titles up as a big, big deal, and they've done just that. There has been so many great champions to hold on to these titles, from the Lucha Bros to the Young Bucks to Sting and Darby Allin. I love everything that goes on with these titles. It would be a disservice to these championships if I put them anywhere else other than A tier. Now, look, again, everybody's going to be, oh my God, Con, you were just talking them up. Are you not going S tier with it? But no, I'm not. I'm not going to put them in an S tier because the design of them, to me, still isn't great. The tag team titles, they feel like they're AEW's original championship designs, but they're so far off from what the original design of the world title was that it never reached the same level in my eyes in the pristine championship. If I had these titles sitting side by side, I would definitely want the AEW World title over this one. I would definitely want the AEW Women's Championship over this, and I'd probably want the AEW Continental Championship over these ones. The tag team titles look good, but they're not great. The thing that stops me from putting them here in the B tier alongside of the trios titles is their history and the amount of attention and great matchups that I've had with these titles. So it's very simple to me. It's not an S tier championship. They are protected. They are beloved amongst AEW fans, and they should be, but the design brings them down just a little bit. That's an A tier championship. Now, the thing with the remaining titles that we have right here is a lot of them are very similar to the designs that we already have up here. I mean, the women's and men's Undisputed Championship, along with the men's World Heavyweight title, are going to probably all be around the same area. But let's take a look. So if we're talking about the men's World Heavyweight Championship first right here, the design is perfect. Right? If we really look at this title, I would buy this championship tomorrow. I would love to have a replica version of it. I think it looks great. So for that alone, it immediately belongs in the A tier, just for the design. But if we look at what has been done with this World Heavyweight Championship since coming into WWE, right? We got to remember, this is not the exact same World Championship from the past. This is different. It's its own new legacy. Seth Rollins built this up in a massive way. Great defense after great defense. Unfortunately, against people that we kind of wanted to see win the title, which was counterproductive for Seth Rollins because everybody was rooting for the opponent, not for Rollins, and he kept winning. But he built this championship level up to a whole new area that we hadn't seen before. So much so that now Monday Night Raw, which feels like just an incredible show, is thriving because of the World Heavyweight title. From Seth Rollins to Damian Priest to everything surrounding with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk around that title as well, to now Gunther holding onto the thing and running rampant with it. It is excellent. I love this World Heavyweight Championship. There's no question in my mind it's an S tier, right? The design alone just brings it right up, right to that line, and then you bring in the history of this title, you bring in the great champions and the great matches we have seen with it. It's a no-brainer for me. So this is an S tier for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. We'll get to the undisputed titles over here, but first up, let's go with the women's tag team titles. Now, these things have been around a while. I don't think it's fair to say that it's been a failure because it hasn't. We have gotten some good tag teams to hold on to these titles that have gone on to do bigger and better things. So in a way, they've been a stepping stone for the story of today, right? If we look back at Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, a lot of their feud comes from around these titles, right? Liv Morgan also paired with Raquel Rodriguez. There might be that in the future as well, or Raquel Gonzalez. This is going to be one of those championships that are integral to the brand long term, especially if we're going to have them being defended on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. It's very integral overall as a whole, but it also feels like WWE's completely forgotten to build up this tag division for so long. And it's why whenever there's a feud around the tag team titles, it's just kind of there, right? You know, whether it be the Kabuki Warriors or now the PFC or, gosh, like literally anybody that feuds with these championships, it is kind of forgetful. The only people that haven't really been forgetful and seemingly elevating this title is Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They've done a great job at elevating this thing and making the division feel bigger because it is two stars working together to elevate everything. But at the end of the day, it took a main event star, a WrestleMania main eventer in Bianca Belair to bring any significance seemingly to these titles. I like the design, all right, but it's not enough to elevate it out of the C tier. It's a pretty easy C tier for me right here. I don't think it's an F tier, all right? I think that's a disservice here to the women's tag team titles. I know that for a long time it has not been built up in the way fans want to see it built up. But like, look, there at least is enough history and enough lore with these championships to make sense to put it here at the C tier. How about the new SmackDown Tag Team Championships? These are cool. These are pretty cool right here. I like the idea of having these on SmackDown. I like the design of them as well. I think that they are a better design than what we got going on over here, right, with the men's tag team titles. Like, I do think it is a better design. Now, the question is it out of the C tier? I think it is. I think it's a disservice to put these titles down here in the C tier. I've seen enough with them. I've actually seen DIY win the tag team titles live in Toronto, and it was a big pop, and it was a really feel-good moment. And then also with the Bloodline holding onto the titles, it has elevated them to new heights. I would say that they are definitely considered a better championship than the Raw tag team titles, and the design also helps elevate it. I don't think it's an A tier. I don't think we can sit here and say it's on the same level as the AEW World Tag Team titles quite yet, Definitely not on the NXT Championship, the United States title, or Continental Championship. So the B tier is very, 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 very fair for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, how about the Intercontinental Championship? First and foremost, the design is pretty damn good. I still think if I was to pick between this title and the old white strap IC Championship, I would pick the old white strap. This is a good title. It's not great, though. What does make it great, however, is the fact that Gunther held onto this title for as long as he did. He elevated this thing, and man, when Gunther was holding on to the Intercontinental Championship, it felt like a world heavyweight title. He even called it the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship of the world. Like, that's about as close to a world championship as you can possibly get. And now, this is where lore overtakes design. This is where the history of the belt completely shatters anything that we have for looks of this belt. The IC title is about as iconic as you get in WWE. In many ways, it is more iconic than the WWE Heavyweight Championship or Undisputed Championship. It is one of those titles that everybody loves, everybody respects. They view it as the workhorse title. So many legends have held onto this thing through the years. It's such a disservice to put this thing anywhere else than S tier. The IC title is an S tier title. And that brings us to our final two, the Men's Undisputed Championship and the Women's Undisputed Championship. First and foremost, the gold looks great on this title. The branding is on point. We know why WWE does the big WWE logo in the center. It's so that anytime that they give these titles to sports teams, whether it be the NFL, MLB, NHL, you name it, they have that branding right there. It is so iconic. It is so simple to understand what you're looking at, and everybody immediately knows what it is. The WWE Undisputed Championship is about as perfect as you can get from a branding standpoint. However, looks-wise, it's not great, right? Like, let's be real. The look of this title is not anywhere as unique as the World Heavyweight Championship, as the AEW title, or even the NXT Women's and Men's title. Like, that design at least is like, okay, they're trying something different. The branding is on point, but like, it's different, right? The big WWE logo in the center has never been something that I loved. And if I was ever to hold a title side by side and said, pick which one you want, and I had the World Heavyweight title in this hand and the WWE Undisputed Championship in this hand, I'd pick the World Heavyweight title. But that's not to say that it doesn't belong in S tier, because this is the cream of the crop. This is the championship everybody aspires to hold. This is what you want to be if you are a champion. You want to be the top dog right here. The WWE Undisputed Championship is without a doubt an S tier. The amount of history that they have with this title is insane, and the way that it's been presented, whether it be on Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns or you name it, I mean, there's really not that much. This title per se, nobody else has held on to it than Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. But still, the lore of the championship, being unified with the WWE title and the Undisputed Championship to become one, it's really cool. I love the design of it, and I don't think anybody else is going to put it anywhere other than S tier. However, here's the thing with this championship right here. Since its incarnation, I feel like it's been a step below the Women's World title. I feel like ever since this title came into play, it hasn't been viewed at the same level. Whether your name is Bayley, whether your name is Nia Jax, this championship just hasn't felt on the same level of the others. And it's almost the opposite of what happens down in NXT. This title is more like, hey, we've got this championship. We want to feud around this title. We're going to build some people up, but like, I'm not sure if there are stars, right? If there are biggest stars, it's almost like, hey, here you go. Thanks for all of your work through the years. Here's a championship run. We're going to book you well, and we're going to put you on the show. This one feels like the show is centered around the Women's World title. This over here, not as much. And because of that, we have an A-tier championship, in my opinion. Now, granted, these are just my opinions, and I want to know all of yours down in the comments below. So if I made you mad, I'm sorry. It's just a fun video. It's pro wrestling. Don't take it too seriously. But if you did enjoy this list, then make sure you leave a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn those notifications on and keep coming back, because I upload wrestling videos every single day. We have a lot of great content coming out soon. So thank you so much for watching. Take Take care and have a good one.